Also communication has changed, yeah? So in our time, there were no WhatsApp groups, there were no emails. So if one thing becomes, one little thing is in the world very quickly, and you cannot get it back. And that's how our media and how our world nowadays work. You make one statement that's wrong, and boom, you're cancelled. And I think this cancel culture thing is a little, I compare it to medieval times where they would, put the culprit on the square of the village, and everybody could spit at them and say you're the bad person. And today it's not very different. I think it's a little like that. Honestly, I'm quite excited. I haven't seen the venue yet, but it's exciting to present the film in France first and foremost, because France is the country of cinephiles, and I'm just very excited to meet the audience, to talk to the audience after the film, because I know it's a very educated audience. So that's what excites me.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an extraordinary setting to be here with our film, and we are just so happy and looking forward to the audience.
Thank you for having us. The film is about a young teacher who starts a new job at a school. The school is a little troubled because there are thefts happening and nobody knows who the thief is. Everybody's trying to solve this mystery, and at some point the students of our new teacher are being accused. And she thinks this is really bad and decides to take matters in her own hands, and this gets out of control and leads to some sort of downward spiral.
Ja, bitte?
Hallo alle zusammen. Wir müssen den Unterricht jetzt mal für einen Moment unterbrechen. Wir würden gerne einen Blick in eure Portemonnaies werfen.
I think it's something that we came up in the process of writing it. In the beginning, it was the setup about the thefts, and my sister is a math teacher, and she told me about this series of thefts that had happened in her school, and immediately it was clear that once there's this kind of suspicion in the room, you have to position yourself. And in her case, there were some teachers who said, oh, this poor person, they found out who it was, this poor person, now she will lose her job. And others were saying, but no, she stole from me, she should be punished. And both sides have arguments that you can understand. And I think Ilker was quick to pick up on that this would be an interesting argument, or an interesting idea for a film where you have two sides of a coin, where you can understand both of them. And this was some guiding principle when writing it, that we always would try to find characters, or the way in which characters would act out of a history, out of an argument that you could understand, even if you might be another opinion. Nobody is like wrong on something, they just have a different view on it. Yeah. And then we discovered that school was a great setting that, especially in German films, hadn't been used that much apart from comedies.
Yeah, we were very much aware of the fact that you make a film about school, you also make a film about society. There's this great French film, by the way, Entre les murs, which was a big reference. Laurent Canté, oui. Yeah, yeah. And we watched that film and we immediately knew, okay, we've been a little more stylish, but maybe. But I don't know. I think his work process was also different. I think he spent much more time with those students. I read some interviews. We spent time in schools. We did research, and and what we found out was like the immense pressure that teachers have to endure when they work today. And it's not like it used to be back in the day. My parents would say, if your teacher is saying that, it must be right. And now it's quite the opposite. Now it's like, why does my kid get a bad grade? Isn't this your responsibility? And teachers have to put up with so much shit that the other day I read something from Korea, like 4 teachers committed suicide because they couldn't take the pressure anymore. And I would just hope that this film, sheds a light on the work of teachers and the stuff they go through.
Ich gehe jetzt hier mit meinem Stift diese Namensliste ab und alles, was du tun musst, ist zu nicken, wenn du eine Ahnung hast. Ja?
Herr Liebenwerder?
It's about how we as a society deal with the accused and deal with the weak, you know. It's about how every society needs a scapegoat. And, you know, you have this in politics a lot. When there is a crisis, then they make a pawn sacrifice. And then it's just to keep the system going, you know. The system needs to be going. That's what matters. And we thought that's much more interesting to convey rather than to say, oh, she did it, or he did it, or whoever. Truth has become such an elusive thing in our times. Like, especially, you could see that in the pandemic, where like everybody was saying, you know, should I get vaccinated or not? And you could go to this source on the internet, and then you can go to that source, and truth became a matter of belief. And you know, when you have that, you have a problem, because if you cannot if you cannot have facts, then this is a world that is, you know, that will spiral out of control. And that's the world that we wanted to narrate, that we wanted to have in this film. Yeah. Also, communication has changed, yeah? So in our time, there were no WhatsApp groups, there were no emails. So if one little thing is in the world very quickly, and you cannot get it back. And you know, that's how our media and how our world nowadays work. You make one statement that's wrong, and boom, you're cancelled. Yeah. And I think this cancel culture thing is a little, you know, I compare it to medieval times, where they would, you know, put the culprit on the square of the village, and everybody could spit at them and say you're the bad person. And today it's not very different. I think it's a little like that.
Bespitzelung, Denunziation, Verleumdung, Rufmord.
I think the shouting is something Ilker came up with, and I think it's interesting because you have these little moments of tension release in the film. The whole film is about building up tension, and we were really interested in not letting too much of this tension go away. Actually, the teacher doesn't have too much opportunities to release this tension. So I think it's important to have those little moments. And I myself am always happy when she also goes to the students and says, you cannot do this school interview, this goes wrong. I'm not letting this being done to myself. So I think it's about this, how much can you endure and how much do you fight for the idea you have, and where's the moment where you also say, no, this is the moment where I cannot do it anymore and I have to look for some kind of release. But the shout was something I think you came up with.
Yeah, I'm actually, don't you remember, like we had this in school, we went to school together, and we had this one English class teacher, and he one day said to us, okay, everybody get up, I want you to scream as loud as you can. And I remembered that while we were writing, and you didn't.
Yeah, I think a lot of stuff that happened in school, I realized in writing this film also that I had pushed it away. Because also
that's what you do, huh? You always push things away.
Although I think school for neither of us was a really bad experience, but we had an experience similar to the movie where teachers would come into the room and would frisk students, and because we had a series of thefts going on.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we tried to make this film really a pressure cooker. So we wanted it to be pressure, and then at some point she's like, okay, what the I'm just gonna scream it out, or you know. And I like that moment very much. And of course, it's also a little speculative when you write it. You never know if it's gonna work out or not. But when we did it on set with the kids, it immediately felt right. Yeah. And I think, you know, our time in school, lots of it we have pushed away, but that kind of stuck with me. And I remember that moment was after 9/11. I remember being in school, and that English teacher came in class, and it was the day after 9/11, and he said, please get up and let's shout.
Yeah, I think just as a starting point, Ilker always likes to put up images of actors at the beginning of the writing process. These might be actors that we wouldn't necessarily work with or might not be available, but just to have a face in front of you while you write this character. And Ilker from the beginning put up Leonie's picture, and we had her in mind while writing it, because I think you always said she's such a great actress, and we were fans of her from The White Ribbon by Michael Haneke, and so we were really, really happy when she agreed to take the project.
Yeah, I met her in Berlin, and she said to me, listen, I like your script. I don't know what you're trying to achieve here, but I'm gonna do it. There's just one thing you need to know. I don't like children. And I said, okay, don't worry, you can not like children, it's no problem. We'll manage. And then it turned out she's actually very good with children. But yeah, what can I say about Leonie? I mean, she's smarter than I think everybody I've worked with. She's really, really highly intelligent. She has intuition that, you know, I don't, like on set we didn't speak much. She would make an offer, I would say, great, let's move on, and we would wrap up early every day. So far that, you know, my DP Judith would turn to me and say, hey, don't you want to do one more take, you know? And I say, okay, let's do one more. But I actually got what I need. She barely, I gave her direction because she's just so good. And, you know, apart from that, sometimes you have these actors who want to know stuff. She didn't want to know anything. She said, I trust your writing is great. I'm just gonna, you know, trust the writing and do it like that. And that's how we worked. And apart from that, she's just also an incredibly kind and thoughtful human being. So it was just a gift working with her.
Frau Kuhn, ich habe ein riesiges Problem.
Glaubst du?
Den Eltern?
Ja, wegen neulich.
Haben Sie einen Beweis?
Naja, zum Beispiel von Mutter zu Sohn.
Darum nochmal, wie kam es dazu, dass wir verdächtigt wurden?
Die Eltern haben doch ein Recht darauf zu erfahren, was wirklich passiert ist. Bespitzelung, Denunziation.
Für die trägst du auch noch eine Verantwortung.
Verleumdung, Rufmord.
Ich glaube, wir machen hier gerade einen riesigen Fehler.
Vielleicht sind sie auch überfordert.
Was im Lehrerzimmer passiert, bleibt im Lehrerzimmer.